Yo, what's up guys? Bill here, Classic Rock and Metal Review. Time to do our monthly bootleg review episode. Just handed you all the info on all the latest new releases last episode. Sometimes I do a review during that, but not this month, but I have 3 of them to do today. Hall Oates, cool one from 1975. You know, not exactly a ton of stuff from that era out there. Kind of stumbled upon this one. Steven Stills of Manassas, going back to their first year together, 1972. And finally, some Kiss, 75. All some interesting stuff. We'll do full-on reviews. Guys, I just wanted to spend a little time talking about some other little odds and ends, but not before getting reacquainted with an old pal. Alai was a go-to of mine. A buddy of mine, Greg, turned me on to this stuff. Cigar City out of Florida. Great middle of the road as far as alcohol, kind of IPA, 7.5. That's in my wheelhouse these days. I can't really do too many of those 10s and stuff. So, you know, it's a little fruity, it's a little hoppy, it's right down the middle, like I said. But it's good, reliable beer. You guys are probably familiar with it if you're IPA drinker, because it's kind of easy to get all over as far as I know. Anyway, let that settle down. Today, like I said, 3 reviews. 2 of them are actually pretty new releases within the last couple months. The Hall Oates being an older one. Not really sure when that exactly came out. But anyway, guys, giveaway winners. I haven't checked that email address. I will soon. I know, I'm kind of lame. I'll get to it. It's a whole separate email. I need to grab the laptop and all that sort of thing. Don't have it on my phone. It's going to happen if you have any doubts. So check that thing. And also, by the way, someone called me out on that, you know, no CDR bullshit. Believe me, it was in my head too when I was putting all those things, posting all those things. Now, some of those things you can't get on Silver Press. But, you know, I know. It's kind of ridiculous, right? So, for Christmas, I'm going to probably maybe just make it 5 things, but they'll be legit Silver Press things. They might not all be bootlegs either. I might go for, I'll see what I can do. Whatever, you know, Santa can come up with, he'll do it. So I just wanted to quickly address the whole audience versus soundboard thing. Guys, it's just my preference to listen to soundboards. I actually have some audience bootlegs. You know, I just wanted to clarify that when I say audience bullshit, I'm just sort of having fun. Whatever turns you on, you know, it's just not my thing. And, you know, someone who's been listening to bootleg since the late 80s, you know, back when 80 or 90% of what was out there was audience, believe me, I've owned, heard, downloaded my share of audience recordings. It's just my preference. I don't mind, you know, many fans I know. Let's talk a minute about that. The pros of audience recordings. First of all, the ambiance of being right within the crowd. I get it. That's huge with some people, feeling like you're there. You know, even hearing some people clapping next to you and all that stuff. As long as it's not overbearing, I get that. That's definitely something cool about audience recordings. So also maybe just the warmth of the show coming from a single recorder, no sort of post-recording manipulation by whoever's running the soundboard at the show. Although, you know, things could be, you know, remastered by the label putting out the bootleg. I think that was going on a few years back. And these bootleg labels, they actually listen to fans, I think, better than these big commercial labels when it comes to that. They were getting a little heavy-handed, trying to make audience tapes almost sound like soundboards, boosting them too high and stuff. And that didn't go on too long before there was a backlash. So I think now, you know, in the last few years, none of that. You know, it's preserving the recording the way it was, and you're actually seeing bootleg CDs now that might have been remastered 5 or 10 years ago. Now they're re-releasing them as the unmanipulated recordings and things like that. I have 1 or 2 of those actually. So, you know, I'm not anti-audience, but I come from the era where that was mostly all you could get. And now that we have our, you know, I don't have money to buy every bootleg that comes out. So if I have my choice between a soundboard and an audience, I go soundboard. I don't mind that flat, dry sound somebody described. You're right. It is kind of like that in a lot of cases. And in some, it's hard to even hear the crowd at all, except for between songs. I don't really mind that. I'm really just about having a good quality recording of what the band sounded like on stage. I don't need the whole ambiance of being within the crowd kind of thing. But I can see where people are coming from. There are people that are big on that. So just wanted to get that out there. I'm not anti-audience. I even bought one not even that long ago. Sabbath Luzon. You know, some of these audience tapes sound better than other soundboards, you know, for sure. And if there's a reason to buy an audience tape, special significance of the show, something like Sabbath Live in Luzon, perfect example. 30-something minute warning in there. It's amazing. So, and it's also a great recording. Sounds like a club of 40, 50 people, and this person was obviously 10 feet from the stage. Recording's awesome. So, just wanted to mention, throw that out there. Despite all that, I mean, like I said, the bottom line is I prefer soundboards. So, if you hear me say audience bullshit, I'm just just having a little fun. Now let's have a little drink. I've already had a few today, so let's see how this goes, right? All right, first up, you know I've been on my tangent with Hall Oates, right? I go through waves. I think you guys probably all do too. A couple months ago, it was Steve Winwood, into some traffic, you know. Now it's my Hall Oates kick. Probably going to be winding down pretty soon. We're going on a solid month of Hall Oates stuff. But in the midst of it, ordered me some Hall & Oates called War Baby Blue. Vintage Masters is the label on this guy. Soundboard concert from the Roxy Theater, Northampton, Pennsylvania, 1975. I think there's a date on the back of this, if you look hard enough. February 4th. So this is the early show, obviously 2 shows that day. Now, we'll talk about the sound. I'll show you all the packaging and all that sort of thing. Uno momento. But this is a CDR, guys. It only ran 16, 17 bucks. And, you know, when it comes in a jewel case, now let me just stop right there once again. What's all these CDRs lately? Guys, when I first started buying from Japan, maybe 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, you know, I saw all these CDRs on there, saw the silver press CDs costing an extra $7 or $8. I just was on a mission to get all those silver discs that I could get, first of all, you know. Now what's happened, guys, I mean, I used to, if it said CDR, I didn't even look at it. And now what's kind of happened is I got all those silver press CDs that I want. So now it's either, you know, an occasional silver that I want, or I'm kind of going back now and looking at those Japanese catalogs and you know, kind of salivating over all these CDRs that you can get. And they're a little cheaper, but it's really just about the material. I want the material. I know if you haven't watched this channel before, I don't give a shit about downloads. I don't download anything. All right, I'm all about having a physical product. I take it in my car, etc., etc. It's on my iPod. I don't feel like downloading. My computer's almost out of hard drive room and all that shit. I'm not a computer guy. So anyway, that's the story. Let's get back to Hall & Oates. Like I said, Vintage Masters CDR, the full-on CD. You know, when these CDRs come in little slim lines, I can't stand. That's kind of like a turn-off to me. But full-size jewel case, cool. And like I said, not a lot of Hall & Oates from this era, 75. Quick recap of the band. First album in 72, Hall Oates, kind of singer-songwriter-ish. Some full band stuff too, maybe 2/3 of it full band. But a little more of your standard pop rock. Following year, Abandoned Luncheonette, 73. My favorite, pretty much along the same lines of Hall Oates, except full band pretty much in almost every song. A little more rocky, a little less folky. Some great songwriting on that one. Great performances. She's Gone's on there, you know, which was a minor hit. Well, it actually became more of I think a bigger hit later on. Got sort of re-released or had like a rejuvenation, I guess you'd say, a few years later. And then we come to October of 74, their third album, Daryl Hall, John Oates, War Babies. And they had Todd Rundgren and Utopia involved in the playing on this album. I think Todd Rundgren produced it or maybe co-produced it with the band. New sounds, new direction, a little funky here, a little offbeat, progressive beats here and there. More rock for sure versus the first 2 albums. So, you know, you have the whole sort of glam thing happening in the greater rock world, T-Rex, David Bowie, all that sort of thing. And these guys sort of, trend in that way, I guess you'd say. Even though this is a soundboard, like I've said before, all soundboards not created equal. This is a decent, if not fantastic soundboard. Not even stereo, mono sound quality. There is some distortion throughout the entire concert. I mean, it's just basically an overwhelmed recording device all the way through this. So it's there from the first second. It happens all the way to the end, except for maybe the last song, which was actually taken from The Late Show. So one little sort of bonus track on there. But the majority of this show, there is a little distortion. Not really any worse when you crank it loud, which is kind of cool, because I've had a couple bootlegs where the recording device sounded overwhelmed, it's distorted. If you try to turn it up, it just gets more distorted. At least that doesn't happen here. But there is overall some tolerance required to listen to this guy. I think, what you need to take into consideration, if you're a Hall Oates fan, there's not a whole lot out there from this era in the way of soundboard quality bootlegs, concerts. So, just know that going in. To me, the highlights on this one, on this set list, there's 2 separate 3-song sections on here that just make the whole night for me. An overall really good show. But my 2 favorites, you get a quick introduction. Daryl Hall and John Oates Band is on stage kind of thing. Quick intro. And then my first of the 2 3-song sections that I love, Can't Stop the Music, basically the opening salvo from the new album. And I think you get 5 songs from it right away, from War Babies. Can't Stop the Music, You Played Much Too Long, which was a single. So that's the opener. Great song. Oates is on lead vocals. Awesome song. Right into Beanie G and the Rose Tattoo, which probably my favorite off War Babies since I first heard War Babies in the mid-90s or so. Slightly extended jam at the end of Beanie G. It's a really cool version. You're Much Too Soon, kind of basically a soul ballad, which another one from War Babies, like I said. And excellent Daryl Hall lead vocals on that. It's a great song. I think he might outdo the album on that one. So those first 3 songs are one of the highlights for me. You also got, let's see, Better Watch Your Back, deep cut, it's side 2 of War Babies song. If you like that song, it's okay. Don't love it, but it's cool that it's here. When the Morning Comes, Laughing Boy with Hall on the keyboards and vocals. I think there's some accompanying keyboard in the background, just like on the record. That's awesome. Going right into I'm Just a Kid, Don't Make Me Feel Like a Man, which is from the first album. Or maybe it's from Luncheonette. I'm sorry, I get those 2 confused. But Hall sings Laughing Boy. I'm Just a Kid is Oates. And these 2 songs just go together perfectly. They would keep them back to back in the set list for a couple years at least. And then finally, Abandoned Luncheonette follows that one. So this is the second of the 3-song salvos that I love, 2 of them. This being Abandoned Luncheonette. Man, that song is just awesome. And I'll be the first to admit, back when I got into that album, this was the only song I didn't like at one point. And now it's my favorite song. That's how good it is, So they do this sort of doo-wop vocal background thing on this version here. And, you wonder if this is how they really wanted to do the song in the first place, because the album version of this has just a few of those little doo-wop touches. It's almost like they edited out most of the doo-wop vocal thing that they have in the background. So it's really kind of cool. It's different. Like I said, possibly the original version that got edited down. Who knows? But it's awesome. So Lady Rain never disappoints. She's Gone is good. Lady Rain's killer. It's just always great. Born Too Late, don't remember that too much. Don't Want to Play No Rock and Roll. I think that's a cover song. I couldn't find much out about that song. Is It a Star from War Babies is a great one too. Good version. And War Babies, Son of Zorro. This song's kind of growing on me, even still, 20-some years, 30 years later. Good one. I think the positives or the best parts about this show, hearing Oates sing lead vocals on, 15 or 20% of this concert, which is typical for back then, back when they were actually a duo, in my opinion. Perfect tour to have captured for me, because this is like, War Babies is really good. Luncheonette's my favorite, and the first album I think is great. So if you're into that era, here you go. The tour representing all that. And despite some distortion, definitely recommend this one. You're going to have a little tolerance for a little distortion. It's probably not going to win any new fans, but if you are a fan of that era of Hall Oates, I can't see you not enjoying this concert, at least for an occasional listen. Shame we got a little buzzing going on, sort of. Maybe not a buzz, but like, typical overwhelmed recorder kind of thing. Not horrible. I've heard worse, but just a shame it's there. Great show. Next up, Pirates World 1972 from Stephen Stills and Manassas. This is actually from a theme park in Dania, Florida from April 22nd, 1972. Vintage Masters again is the label, just like that Hall & Oates. 2 CDRs. That's right, CDRs again. And of course, as you see, full jewel case. We'll get a good look at the artwork and stuff as we go along. What can I say? The white flag has firmly been raised. CDRs are fine with me now if it's the only way I'm going to get certain material. Now, this one might not be a soundboard. I think it is. A little debate about that. Some people think it's just an excellent or really good audience recording. I think it's a soundboard. I don't think you can have equal clarity on the instruments the way you would unless you were just placed in the perfect place. It is possible, but I do think this is a soundboard, just a fair one with this guy. A little bit of hiss. Overall, just not the best quality. Actually, I did bump the bass up a little bit on my stereo listening to this guy. So, just a little history with Manassas. They formed in late '71. Stephen Stills with Chris Hillman of the Byrds, Flying Burrito Brothers. Also, Al Perkins from the Burrito Brothers on pedal steel guitar. From the Stills Band and from CSNY, Dallas Taylor from the Deja Vu album on drums. Calvin Fuzzy Samuels on bass from Stephen Stills' solo band. Keyboardist, piano, Paul Harris, and Joe Lala, percussionist extraordinaire. The first album's recorded at Criterion Studios in Miami. It's just simply called Stephen Stills and Manassas. Guys, I got this at a record convention, late 80s, maybe early 90s. I just remember the dude saying, I'm like, what's up with this? He's like, you never heard that? It's great. So I think I paid $9 for this bad boy. It's just a single CD, but it's a double album on single CD kind of deal. So this one goes back. This is an original deal. And anyway, strong sort of Latin vibe here and influence on the percussion in the background. And, just sort of woven throughout the album, whether these songs are sort of rock, acoustic rock, bluegrass. It's sort of a mix of everything, which I'm really kind of into these days. Ever since that Santana Moonflower album I got into earlier this year, that Traffic and Steve Winwood stuff. So this is, but unlike those that I just got into, I've had this for a long time. And actually, when they got together to make this album, it wasn't supposed to be a double album, but the sessions just went so well that before they knew it, they had 2 albums worth of material. So that's in late 71. Like I said, this album comes out in 72. Now, the engineer from Criterion, this is how good, if you're not familiar with this record, this is how good it is. The engineer from this session said that the only album he ever worked on that was more impressive than this one was Layla. So I don't know how long that guy worked there necessarily, but that's kind of saying a lot. I'm assuming he worked there for a little while. Stills was apparently, drill sergeant. He kept the Criterion Studios staff on call 24/7 and the band. And basically, whenever he got an idea, he wanted everyone to come down right away and record it to not lose the vibe. So, this was made under a lot of duress on the parts of everyone else involved. And it sounds like on the band themselves especially, but even Stephen Stills, but he put that on himself, basically. There was, at one point, 106-hour straight recording session that took place, which, just doing that math pretty quick in my head, is 4 days straight in the studio. That's with the entire band, not people leaving and coming and going. And guys in the band eventually had to say, yo, come on, we need to sleep here and there, kind of thing. So the goal was, like I said, capture those new songs immediately, which I mean, just give this thing a listen, man. It is pretty impressive. Now, what's cool about this Pirates World is, now it actually was somewhat of a turnoff. You know, I was going to buy this, and then I'm like sort of hemming and hawing at the set list because there's cover songs from the other bands like the Verge and CSN. And that was a little bit of a turnoff to me, only because I love this album so much. I really wanted to hear as much of it as possible, and it was, you know, obviously the set list is what it is, and wasn't as many songs on there as I would have hoped, but there is at least half of it. So I guess in the end, I kind of like that there's a mix of Still, Solo, CSNY, the Birds, Burrito Brothers. You know, like I said, initially a turn off, kind of actually is a plus at the end of the day. Now, when I first heard it was at Pirates World, I thought, I mean, come on, it's Stephen Stills. Why is he playing some Joker establishment like that? Well, turns out the joke's on me. Because Pirates World is, even though I never heard of it before in my life, every big band back in this era played there. Led Zeppelin, Grand Funk, I think Frank Zappa, you name it. All right, I mean, there's at least 20 or 30 bands, huge bands that played here. So, I don't know. This one just slipped through the cracks for me. I never even heard of the damn place. And here, everyone's been there. So, Pirates World, no joke. Apparently a pretty hot place to play. I think they had some sort of like indoor tent kind of facility. Not even 100% sure. So what are my favorites on this one? I already told you about the sound quality. I would say, actually, like I said, surprisingly to me, Rock and Roll Woman from Buffalo Springfield. So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star is kind of cool. It's played a little bit slower and a little, I don't want to say heavier, but sounds kind of cool with a 7-piece band doing it. Let's put it that way. As far as the Manassas stuff goes, Bound to Fall's really good. It Doesn't Matter is a great song. Anything that's great on the album sounds at least really good here. Song of Love, Rock and Roll Crazies. So I think my high points on this album, there is some of those covers or older songs that they do. And basically the Manassas sections, which tend to be among the first 6 or 7 songs on the disc, and then the last 7 or so songs on the disc. So in the middle, there is a huge, like, hour-long acoustic session, all right? Which, it just is a little too much for me. It's from songs 7 to 12, the second half of disc 1. And I was really kind of good with that. Even though I'm not a huge acoustic guy, all right, fine, you know. It was interesting enough. Some blues, some stills, you know, a couple of Manassas numbers in there, 4 and 20. But then you put on disc 2, and it's like another half hour of acoustic stuff. And it's decent enough, you know. It's just an hour of just acoustic. It's just a little too much for me. That's the big turn off for me. That's basically my review of it. You know, it's good. I just was hoping for a little more in the way of just Manassas. That's probably pretty much my criticism of it. Sounds not the best, but it's okay. I think this was, you know what, I actually got this half off on RZ, so I paid $15 for 2 CDRs, not too bad. And I'm glad I didn't pay any more for it. I'm fine with $15 for it. Stephen Stills on Manassas Pirates World. If you're a fan of Manassas, I would say go for it. If you're not, I don't think it's going to make you a believer in this band. What will be this, or most of this, is really excellent. If you can find this guy, I came across this at Tower Records 20-some years ago. 34 minutes or so of Stephen Stills and Manassas on Beat Club, and they really hit all the high points of their first album, live on TV here. Killerness there. What I need to get into next, this is from back in my trade-in days, DVD. It's in black and white. I think we're at Winterland. Manassas in 73. You know, they were getting a little loosey-goosey by the end of 73, and they broke up shortly thereafter. If you want to see some kick-ass Manassas on video, just search for Beat Club. It's on YouTube, last I checked. I don't think as one concert, though. You got to watch each song separately. But not if you're like me and you collect DVDs. You get it all in a row, uninterrupted. That's why I do that. I don't want to hear it's on YouTube. All right, guys. Next up, Kiss Tulsa 1975 soundboard. Full title on this one. It's a Friday, June 13th in 1975. We're at the Tulsa Fairgrounds Pavilion in Oklahoma. This thing runs 64 minutes, guys, and Kiss on this night, the opening band for Rare Earth, if you can believe that. I mean, I guess we're still at that stage, just about to bust out of it, though, as we all know. And this is a Zodiac label, silver press CD. They are taking care of us with Kiss the last year or two, faux show. This is a very good stereo soundboard recording. Overall, very good quality. There is some tape warble that goes on here. Probably, if I had to remember right, guess 4 songs, and it tends to just be in the beginnings of the songs as far as I remember. I've listened to this thing like 3 times, but it's been almost a week. Each one lasts anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds, but what's kind of odd about it is it's almost like you can hear the tape playing normally behind the tape warble. So you hear it going on, but it doesn't seem to affect all of the sound. It's kind of strange. I don't think I've ever heard a recording that has tape warble issues that also simultaneously sounds okay at the same time. So I guess the point is, not a real big disruptor. Definitely not for me. What is notable about the sound quality on this thing, there's some really heavy echo in spots on here. And we'll go down the set list and I'll tell you where and how it sounds and stuff. Also, heavy-handed Zeppelin-ish effects. That sort of panned, gong kind of thing that Zeppelin was using around this era. If you know the intro to In the Evening, that whole sort of sound going on. Heavy-handed use of that in spots. And, it sounds awesome. I friggin' love it. Solid, reliable, high energy, 75 Kiss here, as you would expect, delivering the goods. So let's get into the set list. They open up with Deuce. There is a minute or so of warble here, maybe not even a minute, but they just sort of, it doesn't even matter. You just feel the band right through it. Awesome opener, as usual. Right in the strutter, just like great song after great song in this era. All right, you don't have to even ask, is there something they could have did better? Not at this point, Peter Criss's sharp opening riff on this one. He's tight. The playing by him is tight throughout. Kind of missed that old Peter Criss. That could just, I don't know. He just had something going on in these early stages that he just started to lose. Now, third up, Got to Choose. Probably even a few months ago, I would look at this disc and be like, Got to Choose is the odd man out here. Not super into that song. I am getting really into that song. Matter of fact, I consider it one of the highlights on here. Just really starting to get into that song. This performance isn't particularly better than anyone else others I've heard of it. I think I'm just personally getting into it more. Sounds really good. Next up, Hotter Than Hell. We get a little accidental firehouse siren during that one. Overall, really good. Paul announces it as a new song. Firehouse is next up. What's cool about this one is Paul's guitar sounds really just sort of plain. Almost like his distortion's not really working. So you're getting a nice clean guitar, and you can actually hear his playing clearer because of that. And it's a little different than what I was expecting. He's not playing the same rhythm as Ace, It's mostly the same, but he plays a couple notes in a harmonious kind of way that's different than Ace that I never noticed before. So the distortion not really being there like it usually is for Paul and a couple of songs on this CD is a good thing. Next up, She. So what an opening 6 songs, half dozen killers to open this thing. Again, the plain sort of sounding guitar by Paul takes nothing away from this show at all. Or She. Guitar solo is next, and this is where we get that heavy echo and delay stuff going on by the whoever's running the soundboard. And it's only about a 2-minute guitar solo. The solos on here are kept to a minimum, which really just keeps things moving at a great pace. I know if you're a big fan of Kiss, and I am, I guess, right? But, I don't need a 4 or 5 minute drum solo or 6-minute guitar solo or 4 minutes even. That's fine. I don't mind when that happens in a year or two. That's what they'll start to do. But I'm totally cool with this little 2-minute guitar solo because it gets them right into, it just keeps things moving. And the next tune is Come On and Love Me. And guys, it's the best version of Come On and Love Me I've ever heard, easily. And I got Kissology, 6 or 8 other Kiss bootlegs from this era. This one is awesome. I think Paul announces it as their new single, new song. Super tight, awesome. Next we get Gene's little bass solo. Not much of a solo as usual, but it's really quick. It might not even be a minute long. Into 100,000 Years. Then Peter's drum solo. This is another one, man. The effects are through the roof. Killer echo and effects going on with his drums. The most basic drum playing I ever heard, but he's not bongoing around on those toms. A lot of straight up just snare work and stuff, but it's just, the effects just make it for me. I just love this drum solo. I think it's one of his best he ever did. And it's simple as hell, but the effects just make it. And again, it's kept to just a couple minutes. And the reprise for 100,000 Years is next. Black Diamond, never a bad version of that. That sounds really good. There's also a lot of echo in between songs. It's almost like you can hear Paul's voice echoing off the back of whatever kind of arena they had set up at this fairgrounds pavilion. So we end the show with Cold Gin, Rock and Roll All Night. I think Rock and Roll All Night actually fades out halfway through, if I'm not mistaken. Solid sound, no stereo adjustment needed, just that tape warble to get through a couple times here and there. The solos kept to a minimum length, all right, but the effects that are handed on by whoever's running the soundboard are just awesome. I mean, I love that stuff. Maybe you're going to think it's overdone. I don't. Never overdone with heavy echo and swirling kind of effects like that on solos for me. Keeps everything moving. I highly recommend this one, guys. 75, kind of one of those years where by 76 you had a million bootlegs. 75, not exactly the same. Cover artwork, gotta love it. Mimics, Just to Kill, gotta love that. Awesome, right? Gotta love when Zodiac, whatever label, takes the time to line things up to look just like the album, the tour. So, as you can see, there's your inner sleeve, or the inside of the tray card. Cool 4 picks. There's the CD on that one. Cool. Right behind the CD. Sorry, I got my numbered sticker in the way there. Let's see, guys. Is it in the 200s again? Man, that would be some 269. There it goes. The 1 through 500 sticker that's always in the 200s. Anyway, back cover I already showed you a bunch of times. Guys, Kiss Tulsa 1975 soundboard is a winner. Slam dunk winner. That'll do it for our bootleg review episode. Hall Oates, I would say, and Manassas. Fans, if you're fans of those bands, go for them, especially at CDR prices. The Kiss, can't see anyone not loving that. Guys, next up, Sabbath video day on the 13th. Can't wait. Got a whole bunch of little news items to mention. We'll see. We'll talk about Black Science, Geezer Butler's album that I just got a few months ago. And of course, go over everything Live Evil. I know it's been out a while, but just throw in my 2 cents and my 2 sips. Guys, have a good rest of your day. Catch you all later.